Welcome, everyone, to our engaging exploration into the universe of Doctor Who. This show, intricate as time itself, has longevity few can rival. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this beloved series. Let's start by introducing our panel, experts as diverse as the Doctor's many regenerations.
It's fascinating how a science fiction show has documented cultural shifts through the decades. I'm thrilled to delve into its history.
History is one thing, but the show's take on time travel, that's a playground for anyone with a love for paradoxes and a healthy dose of skepticism. Time travel isn't just a narrative trick, it's a complex mathematical problem. Doctor Who certainly tiptoes the line between theoretical possibility and artistic license.
We can't ignore how these scientific elements boost the show's tension and drama. It's all in service of the story.
Well, Doctor Who has always been a lens to examine ourselves and our fears, through every monster and every outlandish scenario.
True, Doctor Who does more than entertain. It challenges our views and ethics through its narratives and characters. That said, how do we address the contention that some of these themes may be too obscure or too convoluted for viewers?
Science should never be dumbed down. If it's too complicated, maybe the problem isn't with the show, but with the unwillingness to engage with it. But we're talking about television, aren't we? It has to be approachable while still captivating the intellect.
Doctor Who excels here because it's historically been inclusive in its approach, approachable stories against a backdrop of intellectual wonder.
Inclusivity isn't just about palatability. The show has a duty to push boundaries, to force us to confront the uncomfortable, including its own complex mythos.
Which, I presume, can become a crutch if the allure relies solely on intricate plots, instead of character development and relatability.
A balance is essential, surely. But we mustn't forget the impact Doctor Who has had on generations of viewers, each finding their own entry point into its rich world.
Will those entry points remain inviting, though, as the series continues to evolve? That's the key question.
It is indeed, and it's a question we'll tackle head-on as we continue our discussion. Today, we'll navigate the confluence of tradition and innovation that is Doctor Who. Welcome, everyone. Time travel in Doctor Who is far from simple. Jazz, you've often been skeptical about the scientific aspects. Kick us off on this topic.
Frankly, the show plays fast and loose with science. Time travel in Doctor Who completely disregards the laws of physics as we understand them. But that's the charm, isn't it? It's about the mathematical puzzles, the what-ifs. Reality is merely a starting point in science fiction.
And these improbabilities you speak of, Jazz, they're narrative gold. Where would we be without a good time loop or a paradox to spice things up?
Narrative gold, perhaps. Mick, but scientifically bankrupt. We need some grounding in reality, otherwise it's pure fantasy.
Yet Jazz, Doctor Who has always been about pushing boundaries. Those time travel paradoxes are metaphors, explorations of our own human condition.
Metaphors or not, the series has to maintain internal logic. The moment you introduce magic science willy-nilly, you lose narrative stakes.
Lenny, without a little magic, time travel stories can end up shackled by physics. Where's the liberation in that?
And besides, time travel in Doctor Who has rules. They may be fluid, but they exist. Breaking them has consequences, even if they're conveniently sidestepped at times.
Fluid rules are cop-outs. You bend time too much and it breaks. Impossibilities should not become devices for cheap thrills.
Impossibilities or not, the time travel device is central to the show. Amelia, is this bending of time integral to the show's appeal?
Absolutely. The very essence of the show rests on time travel. It allows us to explore history, the future, and the human psyche in extraordinary ways.
Appealing, sure, but there must be a balance. Without plausibility, every resolution is deus ex machina, and it undermines the drama.
There is a balance, though. The show takes scientific theories and plays the what-if game. It's fiction doing what it does best, asking questions we never could in reality. I'm all for asking questions, but the answers need to make sense. Some episodes are like throwing science at a wall and seeing what sticks.
But Jazz, when has Doctor Who ever claimed to be a documentary? Its heart is storytelling. The science serves the story, not the other way around.
The story should still be believable within its universe. Jazz, do you think there's a line that's been crossed?
When the Doctor literally rips holes in time because the plot demands it? Yes, we've crossed that line a long time ago.
And yet the series endures. Perhaps because, despite the science, we all still yearn for a Tardis to whisk us away. Paradoxes be damned.
Yearning doesn't negate the need for consistency. It's the tightrope walk between the fantastic and the believable that makes or breaks time travel narratives.
A fascinating discussion. Let's admit, the paradoxes of time travel in Doctor Who will continue to both confound and captivate us in equal measure. Let's dive into the Daleks. Amelia, can you give us an overview of their evolution in the Whoniverse?
Certainly. The Daleks, originally created by Terry Nation, have fascinated viewers since their first appearance in 1963. They've transformed from simple machines into complex beings with a rich mythology.
I wouldn't say rich. They started as Nazi allegories and haven't evolved much. They're a one-note symbol of evil. That's not complexity, that's laziness in writing.
On the contrary, Mick, their sustained presence speaks to something more primal in viewers. The Daleks are the embodiment of our fear of the other, of totalitarianism.
I'm more interested in how they reflect our anxieties about technology run amok, stripped of any human morality.
And can we agree they remain a relevant symbol of fear?
They do. Their lack of individuality, their collective mindset, taps into an intrinsic fear of losing our humanity.
From a mathematical viewpoint, their evolution is fascinating, especially concerning their hive mind-like mentality. It's a concept we find in studies of emergent behaviors.
Well, I believe their relevancy does wane at times, but then showrunners reinvent them, adding layers or new twists to their lore, which reignites interest.
It's a cheap trick, bringing them back every time ratings dip.
I wouldn't call it cheap. It's smart. Daleks are one of the show's constants. They provide an anchor for longtime fans and a touchstone for new ones.
Plus, they have appeared in many forms, showing adaptability. They're not unchanged by their encounters with the Doctor.
That adaptability alone challenges your one-note argument, Mick.
Adaptability doesn't equate to depth. New paint on an old fence doesn't change the fence.
A strong point, but without these revisions, would the show not risk stagnation?
Possibly, but it's the fresh challenges they present to the Doctor that keep the Daleks relevant, not just their external modifications. And let's not forget, the show is a champion at walking viewers through a suspension of disbelief, which in itself is a mathematical art form. The reinvention of the Daleks is part of that art.
Exactly, Izzy. Their survival is testament to the show's genius in reinvention and maintaining tension across eras.
We shouldn't underestimate their cultural impact either. Exterminate is an iconic catchphrase that has transcended the show.
As we've seen, the Daleks clearly provoke strong opinions. This is what makes them such a crucial element of the Doctor Who mythos. They're more than just villains. They're a mirror to our societal fears and a testament to the show's enduring relevance. We now pivot to diversity and gender in the Doctor's universe, a topic that's sparked intense discussions in recent years, especially with the introduction of the first female Doctor.
That was a groundbreaking moment for Doctor Who. The series has a legacy of strong female companions, but having a woman take the lead was a powerful statement.
Groundbreaking? Possibly, but there's room to question whether it's truly progressive or just ticking boxes. Doctor Who should lead by example, not follow trends.
Jazz, it's not merely about trends, it's about reflecting our world. The Doctor being able to regenerate into a woman is staying true to the character's alien nature and potential for change.
But Mick, the execution matters. Some feel the change was more cosmetic, a way to appease calls for diversity, rather than to develop layers within the show's narrative.
I have to disagree, Lenny. It's about the narrative evolving. We're in a society increasingly aware of gender issues. It's apt for Doctor Who to mirror that progression.
What about diversity beyond gender? The show has had missteps. Let's not forget that representation means more than just a gender switch.
How can Doctor Who better handle diversity moving forward without it coming off as insincere?
It's about organic inclusion. Write interesting characters who add to the storyline naturally, instead of trying to meet a diversity quotient.
Organic, yes. But diversity should also challenge stereotypes and avoid tokenism. Each character's identity can be a source of new and compelling plot lines that enrich the Doctor's world.
Yet, we must admit, there's still a section of the audience that's uncomfortable with these changes. The backlash has been quite disheartening to witness.
True, Lenny, change is often met with resistance. While it's crucial to remain cognizant of longtime fans, the series can't stagnate. It should reflect the times.
The aim should be to challenge the viewers, to push boundaries. If Doctor Who merely comforts its audience, it fails the potential of science fiction.
Then, the issue becomes maintaining a balance between challenging the audience and not alienating them. How do you navigate that while still telling a gripping story?
There's a fine line. Keep the core essence of the show, the adventure, the compassion of the Doctor, while also using the platform to explore and normalize diversity.
Every character, regardless of their background, needs to have a purpose. If the showrunners maintain integrity in their storytelling, the rest should follow.
As long as we remember, this isn't about checking boxes. It's about telling stories that matter through the lens of different perspectives.
Because ultimately, that's what Doctor Who is about. Encountering the unknown and embracing the universe's diversity in every sense.
We've seen Doctor Who often plunge into the depths of scientific and ethical conundrums, sometimes even bordering on prophetic. Izzy, could you start us off with your thoughts on this?
Certainly. Think about episodes dealing with artificial intelligence and virtual realities. Years ago, these concepts were sci-fi fantasy, and Doctor Who was already exploring the consequences of their evolution. And they did so with striking prescience. Though I must say, cautionary tales aren't predictions. They're warnings, extrapolations of our current trajectories.
Exactly my point, Jazz. The show isn't just entertainment, it's a mirror reflecting our potential futures. The best of science fiction always has been.
Yet, despite these potential warnings, Doctor Who is not without its missteps, right? Perhaps even glorifying certain advancements without a full ethical dissection.
That's fair. While it's great at raising issues, it often leaves the ethical debates open-ended for the audience to mull over.
Open-ended? That's an understatement. The show plays with enormities like mass surveillance biotechnology, and they get resolved in, an hour? It's oversimplified.
But Lenny, isn't that the point? The show sparks the conversation. It's not the show's job to solve these ethical issues, but rather to pose them to the public consciousness.
Precisely, Amelia. The responsibility lies with us as viewers to interrogate these problems. Shows like Doctor Who serve as catalysts for much-needed societal debate. Additionally, they provide accessible narratives for complex issues, which is invaluable in education and awareness.
Absolutely, but sometimes the speculation is way off. Remember the Moon as an Egg episode? Amusing, yet astronomically impossible. It's a delicate balance between speculation and misleading fantasy.
Misleading? Please, it's science fiction, not a documentary. It invokes the what-if scenarios that spark our imaginations and our ability to critically apply them to our reality.
But Jazz, that's where it can veer into irresponsibility. The line between creative license and distortion of science gets blurred. It feeds misconceptions for the lay audience.
The show has fumbled occasionally, touching on sensitive issues. How do we reconcile when it's in the name of drama versus an ethical responsibility to inform?
It's not just about drama or information, it's about inspiration too. These stories inspire the next generation of scientists, thinkers, and dreamers.
Inspiration is one thing, but is the show keeping pace with our evolving real-world discussions? Is it doing enough to really engage with these complex issues?
It's doing its part, Hal. I'd argue it's on the audience and society to engage further. Doctor Who is the primer, not the thesis. And let's not undervalue the power of fiction to tap into the zeitgeist, opening pathways for discussion on contemporary issues far more adeptly than dry academic debate.
Even so, it can't just be about hatching ethical problems without hatching some solutions. Writers have an obligation to weigh in.
Writers propose scenarios, Mick. If they started positing solutions, Doctor Who would become Doctor Who-y, preachy and presumptuous.
Let's not forget, every once in a while, the show does get it right, blending ethical quandaries with plausible solutions that are both hopeful and grounded in the show's mythology.
It seems we've circled back to a common theme in these discussions: the balance between envisioning futures and grounding them in the moral dilemmas of today. We've witnessed an interesting ebb and flow between the expansive story arcs and the episodic adventures in Doctor Who. Mick, your screenwriting background must give you a keen insight into the construction of these arcs.
Absolutely. The show thrives on these elaborate story arcs. They're intricately woven, rewarding viewers who stay the long course. But they're not just there for complexity's sake. They often delve into deeper character development.
I appreciate the arcs for their ambition, but from a structural standpoint, it's crucial to note how standalone episodes serve as accessible entry points for new fans. They ensure that the show doesn't become an exclusive club. That's a convenient perspective, Izzy, but it can lead to stagnation. Rich story arcs push the boundaries of storytelling. They force us to confront complex narratives that standalone episodes rarely achieve.
I think we're ignoring the creativity and dynamism standalone episodes can offer. They aren't simply fillers, they can be profound, complete tales that resonate just as strongly.
The balance between the two formats can be tricky. Too convoluted and you lose people. Too simplistic and you might not do justice to the lore.
Hal's point is valid, but let's not patronize the audience. Viewers are more sophisticated than we often give them credit for. They can handle and even prefer more layered, interconnected stories.
Well, sophistication aside, we can't overlook that not everyone wants to commit to a multi-episode arc. The beauty of Doctor Who is that it can offer variety.
Variety is one thing, Lenny, but often standalone episodes jeopardize momentum. We're whisked away from climactic tension built by an arc, and that can be jarring and, frankly, disappointing. Jazz, you have a point there. But let's not underestimate the power of brevity. A strong single episode can be just as impactful and thought-provoking as any lengthy arc.
And let's not forget that arcs can sometimes be a creative prison, binding writers to storylines that may not be working as well as hoped. Standalones can offer a reset button.
That reset button can be a double-edged sword, though. Viewers invest in arcs, and to abandon that through a standalone episode, does that not risk the investment viewers have made?
Viewers invest because they care about the characters and the world, Hal. Standalone episodes or not, that doesn't change. It's all about the writing, the universe, and how we explore it.
Exploring the Doctor's morality is akin to diving into a deep well of ethical quandaries. This character has wielded immense power across time and space. How do we reconcile the Doctor's interventions?
The Doctor's actions are central to the narrative's conflict. They're an alien with almost limitless power, yet bound by their own moral compass. It's a complex space, filled with shades of gray.
Yet we often see that compass wobble, don't we? The very premise of non-interference is violated in nearly every episode. It questions whether interventionism is justifiable.
That's precisely the issue, isn't it? The Doctor takes on this godlike role, changing fates and altering histories. But where's the line? Every decision is a domino effect through time. If I may, it's not just about consequences. Mathematically speaking, the Doctor's choices are variables in an equation. How they influence each variable affects the outcome disproportionately.
And new showrunners bring different perspectives on the Doctor's ethics. Don't forget, we see the morality play out across various storylines, some more questionable than others.
I'd say the Doctor is too unchecked, a reflection of our desire for a guardian. However, absolute power in anyone's hands, Time Lord or not, is troubling.
I reckon that's what gives the show its spark. This benevolent yet fallible character clashing with the face of absolute power within themselves.
But what message does that send? The Doctor swoops in, meddles, and leaves. Isn't it a colonial mindset, disguised in heroism?
Strongly disagree there, Lenny. There's a consciousness to the character, a burden born from their experiences. It's unfair to boil it down to mere meddling.
Indeed, it's reductionist to label it colonialism without considering context. The Doctor often strives to empower, not overpower.
It certainly seems that the Doctor's morality is contingent on perspective, a savior to some, an interloper to others. Do we think the audience picks up on these subtleties?
No doubt about it. Fans dissect every choice, debating the ethical implications. It's part of what keeps the series dynamic and intellectually stimulating.
And still, it's a double-edged sword. How does one weigh the life of the individual against the many? The show doesn't shy away from that, and neither should we in assessing it.
It's all academic until we see the outcomes. An entire species erased, a history changed. The end doesn't always justify the means, and the Doctor often learns this the hard way.
Precisely. That struggle with the consequences makes the Doctor relatable. Imperfection in judgment defines us all, regardless of intellect or power.
It seems we've circled back to an essential truth. The Doctor, much like this debate, is a continuum, imperfect, evolving, and always subject to the scrutiny of ethics. The direction and lore of Doctor Who often reflect the vision of its showrunners. How does each era define itself?
Each showrunner brings a unique sensibility. Take Russell T Davies, who revived the series. His version was approachable, focusing on human stories intertwined with the grandeur of time travel.
True. And then there's Stephen Moffat, who was big on complex, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey narratives. Each showrunner isn't just steering the ship, they're rebuilding it.
But is that always a good thing? Moffat's plot sometimes felt like a tangled mess. It's as if character development took a backseat to the cleverness of the plot.
Exactly, and that cleverness can alienate viewers. The show always had a bit of a learning curve, but Moffat's era felt exclusive to those who could keep up.
That's unfair to Moffat. His era had heart and moments of genius. Remember the Day of the Doctor? It rewrote history gracefully, paying homage to the past while forging ahead.
He certainly wasn't afraid to take risks. But then Chibnall came along, and some say he played it too safe.
Playing it safe isn't the term I'd use for the so-called timeless child reveal. That was a bold move, but it split the fandom like never before. Speaking of which, there's something to be said about continuity. Chibnall's decisions have implications that ripple out across the entire Doctor Who mythos.
Implications or not, it's entertainment, right? If it's engaging and thought-provoking, who cares if it shifts the lore a bit?
Because Mick, lore is the backbone of any long-standing series. It's about respect for the narrative that's been carefully built over decades.
The fan response. How much should it dictate the path of the series?
If you ask me, too much pandering to the fans can stifle creativity. We need bold moves, new directions, or else the show stagnates.
Agreed. But a complete disregard for the fan base is dangerous. It's a delicate balance. Without the fans, the show wouldn't exist.
Innovation is key. The lore can adapt and grow as long as the core essence of the show, exploration, wonder, the fight against injustice, remains intact.
And yet sometimes I wonder if the showrunners remember that it's that essence we love, not just the flash and shock of revelations.
There's no doubt the series' ability to reinvent itself is part of its charm, but each new vision brings with it both admiration and criticism. Perhaps that's what keeps Doctor Who so eternally dynamic. Companion exits are pivotal moments in Doctor Who. Let's start with the narrative impact. Lenny, you've looked into this extensively. What's your take?
It's the emotional core that gets to you. Take Donna Noble's departure. The tragedy of her memory wipe was a double-edged sword, cutting both ways for character and audience.
But sometimes it's the perfect exit that redefines the Doctor. When Rose left, trapped in a parallel world, it was gut-wrenching, but it allowed the story to move forward in brilliant new ways.
Gut-wrenching, sure. But what about plausibility? Some exits stretch credibility to breaking point. Clara's death, then her cosmic road trip with Ashildr. Come on, it's indulgent.
Indulgent, perhaps, but it explores the theme of consequence and loss. It's the heartbreak that sells it, not just the plausibility.
It's not all about heartbreak, though. The whole point of Companions is evolution, of the story, the Doctor, and the characters themselves. Amy Pond's exit, for example, felt earned. It was the culmination of her entire character arc.
Earned is one thing, consistency is another. The show sometimes loses that amid all the timey-wimey stuff.
Consistency can take a back seat to character depth. These departures, they're significant. They reshape the Doctor, prompting introspection, even change.
But we have to ask, at what cost to storytelling? Sometimes it feels like a gimmick to elicit tears, nothing more.
The nothing more is the relatability of the goodbye. Sarah Jane Smith's farewell, for instance, a brilliant testament to the strength of the narrative.
And yet, Sarah Jane's return in the revived series displayed the elegance of the show's history, a long goodbye turning into a sweet reunion.
Call it elegance, but newer fans might see it as pandering to nostalgia.
Pandering? Hardly. It acknowledges the show's lineage, reminding us that every companion is a thread in the Doctor's expansive narrative.
Narrative, legacy, it's all intertwined. It makes you wonder if the Doctor is the constant star, or if the companions are the real stars in this universe.
That's an interesting point, Izzy. Where does that leave us when we talk about the viewer's relationships with both the Doctor and the outgoing companions?
It leaves us asking for more than just spectacle or sentiment. We crave substance that reverberates beyond a single episode.
And we've received it in many ways across the years. The show, like the Tardis, is bigger on the inside, capable of profound depth and connection.
Profound is one word for it. Yet some departures do leave you adrift, questioning the very foundation of the Doctor's relationships.
Then the question becomes, is that questioning intentional? A reflection of the Doctor's complex and sometimes chaotic nature?
Possibly. No matter how they leave, whether in glory or silence, those companions have altered the Doctor's course beyond measure.
Altered the course, sure, but let's hope it's always in service of the story and not merely for shock value.
As we can see, the way Doctor Who handles the profound moment of companion departures is crucial and replete with passionate views. Let's hold on to that thought as we move on. Beginning our discussion on the TARDIS, we're not just talking about a time machine, but a cultural icon. Jazz, from a physicist's perspective, how does the bigger on the inside concept strike you?
Let's be real. The TARDIS defies the basic principles of physics we know. It's a charming idea, but the spatial geometry involved is pure fantasy. It's impossible by today's understanding. Hold on, Jazz. Impossible by today's standards, yes, but theoretical physics does toy with concepts like extra dimensions and warped space. It's speculative, but that's where the magic of Doctor Who inspires, in the speculative.
I love that thought, Izzy. It reminds us that the TARDIS is more than science. It's the symbol of the series, a space of endless possibility, reflecting the Doctor's persona and ethos.
Spot on, Amelia. More importantly, the TARDIS stands as a narrative device. It might be whimsical scientifically, but it's grounded in its role as the vehicle for storytelling across the universe.
If you ask me, the TARDIS's implausibility is its exact appeal. This isn't a documentary, it's science fiction. It's symbolic of exploration and the unknown depths of the Doctor's mind.
Symbolism is fine, but let's not stray too far from the realm of plausibility. We can celebrate imagination while still grounding it in some scientific reality. But where's the fun in that? Fiction like Doctor Who pushes the boundaries of our scientific reality. Sometimes the desire to make the impossible real drives actual scientific breakthroughs.
An intriguing loop. Science fiction feeding into scientific fact. Amelia, could you elaborate on the significance of the TARDIS in the series' thematic journey?
Indeed, the TARDIS isn't just transport, it's the Doctor's home. Its persistence through regenerations and changing companions, the constant in the Doctor's life. It represents the idea of home, not as a place, but as a sense of being and exploring.
That's poetic, Amelia, but let's not forget it's also a storytelling powerhouse. It's how we explore historical drama one moment and cyberpunk the next. Without it, the scope of Doctor Who shrinks exponentially.
Yes, Mick, and beyond that, the TARDIS shapes how viewers perceive the Doctor. Its mystery and complexity mirror the millennia-old Time Lord who pilots it.
Acknowledging all that, it's vital we don't let affection for the concept outpace logic. Sci-fi needs a tenuous grasp of plausibility, or we're just watching fantasy.
I suppose it's that balance between wonder and plausibility that Doctor Who has juggled for decades. Whether it anchors the show in realism or fantasy, the Tardis is undeniably central to its enduring appeal. So, as we transition into discussing the classic and modern iterations of Doctor Who, it's clear both have left an indelible mark on the fandom. But let's consider the key differences. Mick, what's your take on the implications of these shifts on storytelling?
It's like night and day. The classic series had this mysterious, almost serialized charm to it. Now we've got snappier editing and more complex narratives. Some say it's a loss of simplicity. I say it's evolution. But it risks alienating those who cherish the original style.
I vehemently disagree, Mick. Progress in special effects and storytelling doesn't equate to a loss of essence. Quite the contrary, it's breathing new life. The Doctor's ethos is intact, it's the shell that's morphed. And the mathematical storytelling structures are fascinating in modern Who. The non-linear narratives, the branching storylines, they're intellectually stimulating in ways the classic series wouldn't dare. It's not better or worse, it's just different.
But there's a charm in the simplicity and resourcefulness of the classic series that can't be replaced. Sometimes, the modern effects detract from the narrative. It becomes more about spectacle than substance, and that's a legitimate concern for purists.
Yet the evolution has made it more approachable for younger audiences today. The baton needs to be passed somehow, and the modern series does that beautifully, balancing nostalgia with innovation. The Doctor's journey is about change, after all.
But let's not pretend the transition has been smooth. There's clear discord within the community. The challenge is convincing the diehard fans of the classic series that change is part of the show's DNA.
Jazz has a point. The show's always been about change, Lenny. The transition might be rough, but the spirit remains. We're still traveling through space and time, tackling philosophical quandaries, just with a fresher coat of paint.
Interesting perspectives. So we seem to agree the essence of Doctor Who remains, but the approach to storytelling has changed. Let's dig a little deeper into how these changes have polarized aspects of the fan community. Lenny?
The polarity is stark, Hal. Some longtime fans feel sidelined by the new direction, and yet new fans are often bewildered by the classic episodes. It's a rift that goes beyond preference and delves into the perceived spirit of the show.
That's a generational challenge, not unique to Doctor Who, but it does highlight how the show serves as a cultural touchstone across different eras. It's a testament to its influence that it can evoke such passionate discourse.
Without question. And this discourse, heated as it may be, is what keeps Doctor Who regenerating in the public consciousness. Each camp, classic or modern, fuels the series' enduring legacy.
Well said, Amelia. The reality is, without evolution, Doctor Who would have become a relic rather than the continuing legend it is today.
Here's the crux. Whether it's classic or modern, Doctor Who confronts us with our fears and ignites our imaginations. That's why we're all still sitting here, invested in the journey, regardless of the era.
And on that note of unity, we find the show's true achievement: its capacity to engage us, challenge us, and most importantly, bring us together. Despite our strong opinions, it's clear Doctor Who strikes a timeless chord. We've traversed quite the chronology of Doctor Who today, and now we find ourselves at the end of this wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey discussion. Let's hear your final thoughts on what this series truly means to its fandom and the science fiction landscape.
This show is a cornerstone of TV science fiction, inspiring countless other series in the genre. It's not just about the Doctor's journey, but how it fosters the imagination within us all.
Sure, inspiration is great, but let's not overlook the inconsistencies, and at times, frankly, the pseudoscience that Doctor Who often parades as fact. Jazz, while you're not wrong about the scientific liberties taken, don't you think that the creative portrayal of science can stimulate interest in the actual field?
Precisely, Izzy. It's the freedom of expression that Doctor Who takes, which allows it to constantly reinvent itself, much like the Doctor. That's its essence.
I'll concede it has reinvented itself, but at the cost of continuity and sometimes character depth. The show has got to strike a better balance moving forward.
and you feel the fluctuations in showrunners have contributed to this imbalance.
Exactly, each era feels compartmentalized, and that's a disservice to long-standing fans who seek a stitched narrative.
A bit of narrative ebb and flow is natural. The show still manages to maintain a unifying thread of exploration and humanity throughout.
Questionable at best, Amelia. The humanity part, considering how often it smudges the lines of morality. Those smudges, though, they challenge us. They invite viewers to engage with complex moral questions, which is a mark of thoughtful science fiction.
The dialogue with the audience is one of its greatest feats. Sure, it takes liberties, but it also provides a platform for powerful social commentary.
And I think we can all agree that Doctor Who has effectively used the genre to comment on societal issues throughout its tenure.
His tenure, her tenure. Let's not forget that gender switch and the controversy it ignited.
Which was a bold and necessary step, illustrating the show's ability to evolve with the times.
It's a step, but let's watch where that step takes us. The show has its highs and lows, and its place in the future of science fiction isn't guaranteed.
Yet its legacy and influence on the genre are undeniable, as our debate here today has showcased. Doctor Who remains a cultural behemoth that ignites our imagination and stirs deep discussion.
Ignites and stirs, but can it sustain this momentum? That, my friends, will be the true test of its timelessness.
As all good things, our discussion must come to an end, but just like the Doctor, we know that every end is just a new beginning. Thank you all for a spirited debate, shedding light on the vast universe that is Doctor Who.